Test, test. This is a sound check. See if they can hear us outside. We got Kenzie out. Test, test. Can y'all hear us outside? All right, good evening, everyone. We've got 5 p.m. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you will, please join me for the invocation and the pledge. Gracious Heavenly Father, we are privileged to call on your name. We just ask you to be present here with us tonight. Just guide our hearts and our minds and our actions for the tough decisions that we have to make. We just ask your special hand of protection over our community, over our first responders, over our military who keep us safe each and every day. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening. Great crowd here tonight, maybe our biggest one ever. Welcome. We have plenty of opportunities for you to join us and participate. We have a citizens to be heard at the beginning. We have another one at the end. You can speak on either of those of your choice, and you can also speak on each individual agenda item. If you will, fill out a speaker card with Miss Jessica. And I just want to tell everyone this, what you're here for is important. It's serious. We're all passionate. A lot of emotions here. We want to make sure that you can speak your piece and no one interrupts you. And just please help me. Let's keep this together, and let's just keep this very polite and respectful. And we've all got a job to do, and we all appreciate the wonderful place that we live here, and we want to just represent that well. So thank you. All right, do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, item 18, which is dealing with the Senior Citizen Center budget, has been removed from the agenda.
Strike item 18, thank you.
Motion stands.
Do we have a second on the agenda? Second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimous. All right, we will go to citizens to be heard. So obviously we've got a lot of speakers here. We have a 3-minute time limit for each speaker, and I'd like to keep that at the 3 minutes. And if you guys will help me with that, keep it precise and to the point. And if you will, speaking to the microphone, give us your name and your address. There are people watching at home. We want to make sure that they can hear as well. We're going to start out with.
You might let them know, because a lot of people, this is their first meeting, is that in speakers, citizens to be heard, we don't respond to whatever they say.
Okay.
Okay.
Very, very good point. And that's part of our policy and our guideline, and you can speak on anything that you want, but we're not supposed to dialogue back and forth, so feel free to speak on anything. Good point. Thank you, sir. What I'm going to do, let's see, to try to keep this flowing, I'm going to call 5 names. And if we could, maybe the first speaker, and then we're going to line 4 more up, and so that we can keep everybody rolling right after that. We're going to start out with Anna Garner, with Gavin Sokolow, Ryan Smart, Kaya Dungy, and Katie Lindsay, or Linley. We have those 5, and they may be outside, so we'll, hopefully you guys can hear me outside. I'm going to call those names again.
May I ask, when someone comes up to speak with regard to the overflow, what is going to be the way? Are they going to, after they speak, go back out, come back in? How are we going to do that?
Y'all would please to help us out and help everybody get a chance to talk. What we want you to do is say your piece, and if you don't mind, you can go out and somebody else can come in and replace your spot. So if those people are outside, we can get that work taken care of. I'm going to need 5 of y'all to give up your spot for a minute. You can stand right to the doorway. We'll let you right back in. And those 5 can come and stand in line to speak.
Very good. So I'm going to call those names again. Anna Garner, Gavin Sokolow, Ryan Smart, Kaya Dungy, and Katie Lindsay, I think.
I'm going to get them from you when you're done.
Okay.
And she's going to call them out there.
Okay. Well, I'll need them back so I can call them again. So I guess I could write them down.
That's what, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna call 5 more names if you're in this room. Mr. John Alcorn, Robert Spear, Jill Damon, Kevin Mason, and Sue Damon.
I don't see any of them.
Here's Miss Gardner. Okay. Good evening, ma'am.
Hi there.
Before you get started, if you will, give us your name and address again so our court can record that.
Anna Garner, 17 Appalachia Way. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, we have an expert report from Dr. Todd Kincaid, PhD, Shannon and Wilson, and this has been submitted to the board ahead of time. Wakulla County Board of County Commissioners. Dear Board of County Commissioners, I am writing to express my deep concern about the apparent effort to disregard the existence and location of conduits in the Wakulla Leon Sinks cave system with respect to the aquifer protection to Wakulla County. The cave map and the delineation of spring sheds stemming from the mapped location of conduit and dye tracer defined groundwater flow paths and velocities represent many years of work and financial investments made by the state of Florida, non-governmental organizations, and private citizens aimed at defining the increased vulnerability of the FAS, particularly water quality at Wakulla Springs and in domestic supply wells across the region, to pollution stemming from the existence, location, extent, and function of the caves. I hope that you will consider my perspective on these 3 facets of the hydrogeology of the Woodville Karst Plain that are relevant to the proposed gas station of the Bloxham Cutoff Road. He goes into talking about the relationship between the caves and the FAS. Underwater caves in the WKP convey water, sediment, and contaminants to springs at velocities as fast as 4 miles per day, as measured by dye tracing in the conduits within 1 mile of Wakulla Springs. On average, the caves convey water across Leon and Wakulla counties at velocities ranging from 0.8 to 1.1 miles per day, again, as measured by dye tracing. Anything that enters the waters flowing through the caves can and should therefore be expected to reach Wakulla Springs within days to at most 2 months, regardless of any entry point. From any point within the WKP, which corresponds to the region where the FAS is unconfined, not covered by the overlying clayey sediments comprising the Hawthorne Formation, and generally corresponds to the entirety of the region between the St. Marks River on the east and the Spring Hill Road on the west, water from the surface can be expected to travel through the limestone rocks into the caves within days to months, depending on the season, primarily proximity to the caves. In the wet season, high flows within the surface streams that surround the WKP deliver water to the swalettes, to which they all terminate, from which points the water flows down and into the caves.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Okay, do we have Gavin Sokolow here?
Gavin Sokola.
There's Miss Sue, she had
Gavin
a...
Sokola.
Let's get Miss Sue Damon. Come on.
I was gonna say Ryan's here.
Okay. Let's see.
Ryan Smart.
Ryan Smart?
Ryan,
Yeah.
Ryan.
Come on, Ryan. We might be out of order. We're just gonna keep them rolling. Come on, Ryan.
Is it me?
Yes, sir. Give us your name and your address and speak into the microphone, please.
Thank you. My name is Ryan Smart. I live at 209 Tollwood Road in Jacksonville, Florida. I drove 3.5 hours to be here today, and I am the executive director of the Florida Springs Council.
Welcome to Wakulla.
Thank you very much. I lived in Tallahassee for 10 years and spent most of it actually in Wakulla because you're all springs and forests and natural resources. I want to talk to you about the comp plan amendment today, but no one out there can hear what's going on. It's 123 degrees on the asphalt. You have elderly people out there in a serious health situation. You guys need to do something. Like, people out there are really failing. I'm drenched. Like, I am literally drenched in sweat because there's no one out there can hear you. No one knows who you're calling. This isn't what a public notice meeting has to be, right? People have to be able to hear you and understand the discussion and be able to weigh in. And you haven't made that available today. So I really think y'all should find some solution for those people out there, or at least go out there and see what it's like. Go stand out there for 30 minutes because it is absolutely brutal. On the comp plan amendment, you all do not have to pass a comp plan amendment. You all are the legal body that decides what land uses are allowed. In this case, the developer made a speculative investment on a piece of property that was zoned for agriculture. That investment only pays off if you all do what they want and make this comp plan amendment. You were all given a letter by Richard Grosso, one of the most prominent land use attorneys in Florida today, in which he explained that they have no legal right to this amendment. And if you're concerned about litigation, do not pass this amendment today, because you're violating multiple other policies within your comp plan, not to mention the mess of the public notice meeting and what's happening to people outside today. Please slow this down. We can build a gas station a month from now, a year from now. Wakulla Springs, there's only one of them. And this, it's not, to me, the little minor things. Sinkholes happen. We all saw the condo that collapsed in Miami. Catastrophes happen. And if this catastrophe happens, it's your drinking water and your greatest natural resource, and that's just not worth it for a gas station. Thank you all very much. I implore you to take a break and go outside and see what your constituents are dealing with out there. I implore you to.
Thank you, sir. Let's, Ms. Sue Dana.
Mr. Chairman, you might recommend the people outside need to be in order and quiet as well, because there is a sound system outside. There are 2 TVs and there's a speaker, and they can't hear. It's because people are talking.
Speaker quality is terrible out there. There's a huge fan that's making all kinds of noise. You can't hear. And like Ryan said, the elderly people out there, people are melting. This is a dangerous situation. We appreciate the water and we appreciate that one fan, but this should have been moved to the community center a long time ago.
It couldn't be moved. We had items.
Because you advertised it, I understand.
I agree with Ryan. My name is Sue Damon, 138 Walker Creek Drive. I agree with Ryan. This is a serious situation outside. It is very, very hot. And I agree with what Ryan said. You don't have to pass this because there's going to be a lawsuit either way. But when you all talk about property rights, one thing that you need to keep in mind is in the comp plan, when you change the comp plan, the property rights have to, according to what I read at least, be for the benefit of the citizens. And I do not see this comp plan change as being for the benefit of the citizens. I see it as the benefit of one entity, maybe other entities, I don't know, but it certainly isn't for the betterment of our community. And I could talk longer, but I won't. I urge you not to pass this. And there's just so many news outlets that have been covering this all over the state. Everywhere people love Wakulla Springs. I know you guys love Wakulla Springs. I know you guys believe in property rights. But when you think about property rights, this is not a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have Mr. Gavin Soccolo? Welcome, sir. Please give us your name and address.
My name is Gavin Soccolo. My address is 972 Paw Paw Court, Tallahassee, Florida. I'm a senior at Leon High School, and I'm president of the Leon Eco Club. And me and my mom traveled an hour down here to present ourselves.
Welcome. Thank you.
So everywhere you look, there's more and more development and less preservation of our ecosystem. It's so important that we protect these natural treasures for generations to come, so they can enjoy the beauty of the springs. The big gas companies have nothing to lose, and Wakulla Springs has everything to lose. We must take a stand on Old Joe. There are so many gas stations, but only one Wakulla Springs. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Do we have Miss Katie Lindsay? Katie Lindsay? Welcome. Please give us your name and address.
Katie Lindsay, Wakulla Gardens. evening, board and all others. My name is Katie Lindsay. I'm a resident of Wakulla County. I would like to start by distributing some educational resources for the board to review.
Here, just give ones. We don't want to take your time. Thank you.
I spent no less than 36 hours compiling, analyzing, and interpreting different resources from the federal EPA's policies to local ordinances and the comprehensive plan. I'd like to read some excerpts from some of the resources I've compiled in light of the board's decision on approving the rezoning of the parcel owned by Southwest Georgia Oil. I will begin with some excerpts from the final Upper Wakulla River and Wakulla Springs Basin Management Action Plan, finalized in October 2015 and enforced by Florida Statute 403067. The BMAP priority focus areas represent the areas in the basin where the aquifer is most vulnerable to pollutant inputs, where groundwater travels fastest, and where there is a known connectivity between groundwater pathways and Wakulla Springs, page 27. The unconfined and poorly confined regions of the Floridian aquifer, regions with less than 25 feet of sediment cover, extend slightly north of the Cody Escarpment into the southern part of the city, Tallahassee, urban area and southwards towards the Gulf Coast, page 26. You can see the types of aquifers and the explanation of their soil, specifically in reference to its containment ability and educational resources I gave you. This is from Florida DEP's Source Water Assessment and Protection Program, SWAP. The City of Tallahassee and Leon County have enacted ordinances to establish a priority springs planning zone, which reduces development in the urban fringe in PSPZ and allows development in the urban area only to the extent permitted by the future land use map, page 55. Wakulla County has a springs protection ordinance identifying the Wakulla Springs Special Planning Area and is considering the expansion of this area based on geologic vulnerability, page 60. There is also the statement that the comprehensive plan functions to protect the functions of groundwater recharge areas, springs, and spring sheds, page 60. There are currently 8 different management strategies listed for Wakulla County to execute and be responsible for relating to the study of and potential expansion of the vulnerable protected areas relating to the Wakulla Springs Basin Priority Focus Area, PFA. These PFAs represent the areas in the basin where the aquifer is most vulnerable, page 11. The Department, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, Florida Department of Health, City of Tallahassee, and Leon County, and Wakulla County will work together to identify effective management strategies for the basin and to develop the strategies and milestones, page 56. I have not been able to find evidence of Wakulla County collaborating with FDEP, FDOH, the City of Tallahassee, or Leon County to adopt or develop new ordinances for management of development within the Springs Basin, except in reference to nitrate pollution. However, the federal EPA has identified many other pollutive threats to drinking water. I'd like to point your attention to the EPA's protecting our drinking recommendations for groundwater and drinking water. Consider the source, a pocket guide to protecting your drinking water. This resource specifically means gas stations, underground storage tanks, and above-ground storage tanks, and vehicle washing as direct threats for drinking water contamination, slides 40 through 43.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Next, Kaya Dungy. We have Kaya Dungy. How about John Alcorn? Robert Spear. I got Robert, I think it's just Spear. It might be Speed. Smith Creek.
Good evening.
Hi, give us your name and address, please.
My name is Kaya Dungy of Leon County. I was born and raised in Florida. Always visited Leon. Wakulla Springs is part of my home, and I hope y'all are enjoying the AC. Our people out here are suffering, about to pass out. I'm sweating down my back, sweating down my pants. I'm just gonna say it. Wakulla Springs provides more than wealth. Wakulla Springs provides joy, wonder, and life more than you, more than your pockets, more than anything that any man can provide you. For Floridians of all ages, of all creeds, new Floridians, old Floridians, families that have lived here for longer than you, for longer than I. Today we're asking you to say no to this gas station above the cave that will poison our water, the water that we drink, the water that is our life, our blood, the water that sustains our joys and our passions, our livelihoods, our community. We're asking you to not kill it. We're asking you And we are begging you to say no. Wakulla Springs is more than money. Wakulla Springs is life. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. John Alcorn. Robert Spear. Speed, come on down, sir. Please give us your name and address when you get to the microphone.
So they were expecting my shorter brother. My name is Robert Speed. I'm a resident of Sockchoppy, Florida. And I am speaking as a private citizen. I don't pay membership to any private individual organizations that are connected with opposing the building of the inland gas station. My purpose in speaking is to ask how any concerned citizen, and I know every single one of you are concerned about Wakulla County, that you have backgrounds of volunteers and veterans, homemakers, property owners. And this potentially is not only dangerous to Wakulla County, but it is also a potential catastrophe. I will speak in detail on agenda item 20, giving you the details, because I've done an infinite amount of research. But I can tell you that the Inland Oil Company, the Southwest Georgia Oil Company, is not a good corporate citizen, and I can back it up with Department of Environmental Protection citations. They are doing this work for self-aggrandizement, to enrich their own company, and when you look at what their practices are, somebody previously said that they adhere to best business practices. I would have you consider the following. They're probably in the lower decile of businesses facing the retail trade in Wakulla County. They have had numerous citations for gross negligence in operating a petroleum company. They have been found to be an imminent threat to public safety and welfare and endangering the environment. These are the people that you're considering allowing to build a 16-pump gas station over a karst that pollutes the Wakulla Springs, that can travel up to 7 miles a day underground. And it's as porous as your backdoor screen. This company has shown, and I will cite that later, that they're incapable of managing their projects. There have been comments that have said, well, it wasn't them, it was the companies that they acquired that actually were the perpetrators. And that, in fact, is not true. There are over 44 violations that are known of in Wakulla County, and 17 of them may not.
Thank you, sir. That's our 3 minutes. We've got a lot of folks to get to. Thank you, sir. Mr. Gildan, come on down. Please give us your name and address.
Welcome home. Sir. Yeah, thank you. Y'all hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. 193 Purified Bay Road. So I wanted to come up here and talk to y'all. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I wanted to talk to y'all about how we know that y'all don't want anything bad to happen in Wakulla Springs, right? We know that y'all don't want, gators washing up on the beach and anhingas covered in oil and, swamp chickens floating upside down, right? We know that. I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about how I think there really is a way forward here. And I don't think y'all all want to vote for this. Well, at minimum, I don't think y'all want the station to actually exist. I think I can say that for sure. We can work through this. I mean, you got Florida Forever. You got ordinances. We saw Castile's letter and the Democrat this week talking about how, maybe we didn't get the right advice the first time on the ordinance, and yes, y'all can do higher regulation. That sort of thing. But what I need to tell y'all is that out there It's 118 degrees in the sun. I brought a thermometer, I checked. It's 118 degrees in the sun. You got people about to fall. I run a 630 mile, right? Like, I'm sweaty. And people can't use the bathroom. Okay, you got people, y'all think you brought a tent, you did, and we appreciate that, but you can't hold everybody that's out there. And, we tried to get this moved to a different venue so everybody could exercise their First Amendment rights. And that's just not happening right now. And if you're a reporter and you're in this room, you need to go take a look out there, because it's not nice. And those people are going to stand out there because they love their spring and because they want to talk to y'all. And, I don't want to antagonize anybody. I just want to make sure that y'all know that this is not democracy happening out here. People are not going to be able to participate. They're going to have to go home. People may fall out. This is not safe. It's just truly not safe. So I want to work on the gas station. We can talk about that later. There's a lot to talk about. But for now, I would ask that y'all find a different venue. And, come on, like, these are your neighbors. This is not okay. All right? That's it. Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all for listening.
Do we have Mr. John Alcorn? Welcome, sir. Please give us your name and address.
People standing outside.
My name is John Alcorn, 5079 Coastal Highway in Crawfordville, and came to talk to you about things that just basically are obvious. You've heard from experts, and if you haven't, you soon will. You've heard from your constituents you're supposed to represent, and it's time to, do the right thing. And the right thing is not putting a polluting building over a stream. Basically over a stream. So I know that some of you have already decided what you're going to do, and it's going to go ahead and support the gas station. But hopefully, if there's any of you on the fence, get off. It's really uncomfortable there. So get off the fence and do the right thing.
Thank you, sir. We have Mr. Kevin Mason.
Kevin Mason?
And I'm gonna call 5 more names. M. Jan Uber, I think. Renee Murray, Alan Reese, Laura Early, and Gwen Beatty. No, they're not taking them anymore. You're good.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, I'm gonna call these names again. Kevin Mason, M. Jan Uber, Renee Murray, Alan Reese, Laura Early, and Gwen Beatty. And if I may, you guys are doing fantastic in here, but the folks outside, if you can help us keep the noise down, we know it's difficult to hear. And if we can keep that noise down, then your neighbors will have a little easier time. Commissioner.
Yeah, the heat's getting bad. I see them out there.
Bad. I mean,
I'm not trying to, it's getting,
Our folks, hang on. Our county attorney has already explained, we've got legal requirements, we've got 10-day notices that have to be done, and it's not as simple as that. No, ma'am, it is not, but we still have to follow our policy. Mr. Alan Reese, come on down, sir. Please give us your name and address.
Alan Reese, 104 Thornwood Road. This is a continuation of Todd Kincaid's report. He's a hydrogeologist with Shannon and Wilson Geotechnical and Environmental Consultants. Elevated river stages, floods, results in increased water pressure within the underlying caves and outward flow of water from the caves into the surrounding rocks comprising the FAS along the length of the caves. In the dry season, flows to the Swallow cease. Water pressure drops and water in the FAS flows into the caves. The caves therefore provide a mechanism for the exchange of water from the land surface into and out of the FAS. Vulnerability of the springs and the WKP to contamination from surface sources is predicated on the location of the source relative to the extent and thickness of the clay sediments comprising the Hawthorne Formation and the proximity of the source to be nearest conduit within the cave system. The closer the source is to the caves, the faster contamination from a spill will reach the springs, and the smaller the window of time in which a spill can be detected and cleaned up before resulting in contamination to the springs. Vulnerability of wells drawing water from the FAS within the WKP to contamination from surface sources will be similarly predicted on proximity to the caves. Wells draw water from the surrounding aquifer and create local hydraulic gradients that slope to the wells. At close proximity to the caves, pumping from the wells can induce flow out of the cave through the aquifer and to the wells. At further distances from the caves, wells can be expected to draw from the portion of the FAS that is affected by the seasonal change in head pressure within the caves. Persistent sources of contamination can and should be expected to result in contamination of the aquifer within the exchange area around the caves. Wells drawing water from those areas should therefore be expected to be subject to contamination from surface sources. The map positions and dimensions of the caves in the WKP constitute some of the most accurate and reliable maps of underwater caves to have ever been created. This is because of the maps capitalized on 62 locations where the position was defined by Global Positioning System. 27 of those locations are the sinkholes and springs to which the caves connect. 35 of those locations are conduit junctions in the caves that were located at the land surface using ultra-low frequency cave radio transmitters. Boreholes were drilled at 3 of the cave ratio located conduit junctions that confirmed the accuracy of the positions and provided portals into the cave through the cables, which have been installed to provide power to and collect data from hydraulic meters installed in the caves for long-term monitoring. The 62 GPS located positions were used to rectify the cave surveys using the well-established loop correction methodology applied in this distances measured between the survey and the caves.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can we pause citizen comment and have a 5-minute recess?
Sure. Okay, we're going to recess. I have 5:32, so 5:37 we will reconvene. Yes, me? Call the meeting back to order. At this time, y'all, please bear with me. At this time, for my fellow commissioners, I'm going to recommend and entertain a motion to continue item 20 and 21, both items that pertain to the gas station, at a future date to be determined, probably the community center. We hear what you're saying, and we want to make that accommodation. I make a motion. So we have a motion in a second, so let me be clear. The motion on the table is to continue item 20 and item 21. And any discussion on that? Nope. No discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that passes unanimously. Now,
Fred was the second.
so that means and hopefully those folks outside can hear, and you guys help convey this if you don't mind. So item 20 and 21 is done for the night. There will be no vote, no decision. The applicant will not be presenting tonight, but it does leave me with the issue that you guys have filled out these speaker cards. And so I am not going to tell you that you do not have the right to speak, but that's going to be completely up to you. I will encourage you, for our folks outside, if you want to save those comments for the next meeting, please do so. But by no means am I going to say I'm going to set these aside. We can sit here and call them all night, but I'm going to leave that choice. And so I think the smart thing to do is to call each of these names, because I don't want one person to get out of here and say, well, I was going to speak anyway. Everybody okay with that?
Just for the citizens to be heard.
Just for the citizens to be heard. Now, we still have a couple of minor items on the agenda tonight, so that part will continue. And you're welcome to speak on that, speak on citizens to be heard on that. But this is just tabling continuing item 20 and 21.
To a date certain, or?
Well, that'll have to be determined by staff. This is the same.
Staff will renotice it.
Okay. Okay? So, I'm going to roll through these names, and we can do it a couple times. But if anyone wants to speak, they're going to have the opportunity to speak. Yes, ma'am. Are you wanting to speak?
Yes, actually, my name was called when I was outside, but it wasn't relayed outside.
Okay. Do you still want to speak even though we're continuing this item?
Yes, I would like to make this in the record.
Okay. What is your name, ma'am?
I'm Renee Murray.
Renee Murray, I've got you right here. You have the floor. Please give us your name and address, please.
Yes, it's Renee Murray, 87 Walker Creek.
If they would declare, they would.
Okay, thank you. But before we get started, thank you very much, commissioners, for allowing to move this to a different venue. We appreciate that, and you have quite the crowd out there tonight.
And if you can speak very close into that.
I thank you. I'm trying to be respectful too. Okay, so I'm reading about the comp plan. No applicant has a right to change to the comp plan. Rather, the law requires that you all make the decisions to approve or deny the application. And in making those decisions, the law requires that you to be guided and advised by the goals, objectives, and policies set forth in our comprehensive plan, because these define the community's vision for its future and identify how it is going to grow. The law requires that our local government's land development decisions be consistent with the comp plan. Consistency is determined by looking to the goals, objectives, and policies of the comp plan. The comp plan has several elements. I want to talk about the future land use element of the plan, because that is what will dictate many of the goals, policies, and objectives that you are required to consider in your decision at a future date. The future land use element states as its primary goal, the character and location of land use supports the enjoyment of natural and man-made resources by citizens while minimizing the threat to health, safety, and welfare posed by hazards, nuisances, incompatible land use, and environmental degradation. The stated purpose of Objective 1 of the future land use element is to manage future growth and development and implement the comp plan goals and objectives through the preparation, adoption, implementation, and enforcement of land development regulations which are consistent with the comp plan. When you pass land development regulations, the regulations must contain specific and detailed provisions that implement the comp plan policies. At a minimum, the regulations must protect environmentally sensitive lands, protect potable water, well fields, and aquifer recharge areas, identify and preserve historical significant resources. Your land development regulations must protect potable water supplies by restricting land use, which are characterized by hazardous materials, including gas stations, petroleum storage, and by prohibiting activities that require the storage, use, handling, production, or transport of restricted substances, including petroleum products. Your land use regulations should be drafted to encourage the continued use of land for agriculture through adoption of land use regulations which permit agricultural activities and support land use and which limit non-agricultural development in agricultural areas. Your regulations must contain performance standards that address buffering and open space requirements, address historical significantly property noting productions.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
And I should have said this before. I'm going to make another announcement before we continue reading these names. There's been some conversations happen over the weekend and today, and so I just want to make it known that I have spoken to our Representative Schoaf, and also spoken with a representative of the gas station, and I cannot promise anything, but there's a very good likelihood that we believe the state of Florida, through the Florida Forever Fund, will purchase this land. I cannot promise that. I want you to know that's not my decision or this board's decision, but I can tell you that I've got permission to say that it's a very earnest conversation, and so continuing this may give a chance for that to pursue as well. And so just want you to know that that's a very real possibility. At the end of this meeting tonight, we're in discussion item. This is not an agenda item. I'm going to ask my commissioners to support a resolution for us to send to the state of Florida to encourage them to purchase this piece of land.
I'm making right now. I'm good with that.
Well, that's heard it. We can deal with it right now for sure. since it's not an agenda item, it does require a 5-0 vote. So is anyone going to have a problem with that?
I know nobody's gonna have a
Nobody's going to have a problem with that. Okay, so we got a motion, let's say a motion to have staff draft a letter. We'll keep it real simple, that we're encouraging Florida Forever, the state of Florida, to purchase this piece of land. And I second it. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Now, legally, I got to give you guys the right to comment on this as well. And so you're welcome to speak on it. It's going to add to our time, but if you want to speak on it, come do that and fill out another speaker card with Miss Jessica.
Just say amen.
Very good.
Chairman, is it fair to say that these folks can reach out to your state representatives
Absolutely.
and speak with them on it?
Absolutely.
I understand. Keep trying.
Yep.
Keep going.
Absolutely. But I spoke to him personally, and so he's fairly confident that we can do this. Of course, it's not his bottom line decision, just like it's not mine. Ma'am, if you'll give us your name and address and then fill out a speaker card afterwards.
Actually, I filled one out.
Well, this is a different item.
Well, I understand that.
So we'll need another speaker
I
card.
would like to touch on that a little bit, if you don't mind,
On
about the motion and the discussion
okay.
as public. I think that is a wise decision. I've been here in the Panhandle. I've been here since 1968. Grew up over in Bay County, have a home in Gulf County, a home in Tallahassee, and have been here for 55 years. What I'm seeing, sir, is that our resources are being compromised, not maybe due to government, but due to people coming in from out of town as well as out of state, not really respecting the fact that our resources need to be passed down for generation to generation. It doesn't matter if you're talking about the Gulf Coast or an important spring like Wakulla Spring. We need to protect these natural resources. The spring and what comes out of the spring doesn't just belong to Wakulla County. It belongs to the entire Panhandle and even further than that. So I appreciate what you're saying. I will certainly make sure that the people in Gulf County understand that our representative is floating this balloon, and you're going to see more letters around that too.
Right, we appreciate that. Thank you. Renee, what's your name, ma'am? Can we get your name?
Yeah, it's Christy.
Christy, and we need you to fill out a speaker card with Miss.
Actually, if I forgot.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Are you speaking on this item?
I would like to continue the thread that Mrs. Murray introduced, because there's always a chance that Florida...
And that'll be fine, but let me dispose. I've got a motion and a second on the floor right now, and I have to give citizens the opportunity to speak on that. If you'll stand aside, I'll make you the next speaker after we dispose of this item. Do we have any other citizens that want to speak on the item of supporting a resolution?
Ms. Lynn Arts.
Ms. Arts, come on down.
Good evening, Commissioners. Yes, I enthusiastically support you pursuing having this property acquired. If it can't be done through the Florida Forever program, I think organizations like the Trust for Public Lands, Nature Conservancy would be willing buyers. And then I ask that the county even consider it. Y'all have been buying lots of property on 98, so add this. I'll be honest, I think it would be wonderful for, conservation and nature trails, but there might be a way even to make like a northern welcome center, So I fully support having this acquired and not developed.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any, Eugene, come on down. Give us your name and address, please.
Eugene Watkins, Crawfordville, Florida. I would like to say that this is a fantastic, positive idea. We've got sinkholes there, we've got the cave system there, and if the state can buy it, that would be a fantastic piece of land to protect. And for me, this is a glorious moment. I've been coming here for 12 years, and this is like I said, this is a great moment for me. Thanks.
Thank you. If you will, fill out a speaker card with Miss Jessica. Thank you.
My motion stands.
And we're going to hear from Mr. Robert Speed.
Thank you. It seems to be my night to address you.
You're the man of the hour.
I don't consider myself verbose. I'm speaking about the resolution that you just passed. I can't tell you how wholeheartedly I appreciate you doing that. I rose to speak because I have in my possession, although my internet's down, a resolution from the Florida House of Representatives citing Wakulla County and the Wakulla Springs for mapping and preserving the springs and the entire aquifer. And I would suggest that you include that, and I'll be glad to help the staff by providing that, but including that in your letter, because you're in effect saying to the House of Representatives, you've already recognized this resource, not just for Wakulla County, but for Florida, and I would add that it is a resource for the entire United States. So if that's helpful to you, I offer it up to you.
Email it to me, please, all of us, please. I'd like to see it.
Happy to. Thank you for the
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Do we have any other citizens who want to speak on the item on the floor?
My name was called earlier, and I probably was outside and didn't hear it, but I wanted to finish on a letter.
Okay.
For the record.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but right now we have a motion and a second on a resolution for later tonight. This young lady right here, if you'll stand right behind her, I'll get the two of you after we dispose of this. Do we have any other citizens that want to speak regarding the resolution? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Keys, come on down.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I just want to say I think it would be amazing if it was a little park that was instructive about the caves underneath and a sign that says Gateway to the Springs, Wakulla County. It would bring in money, it would bring in attention, it would let people who are driving to the beach straight onto the St. George Island notice us and know that there's stuff happening here. So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And please fill out a speaker card. Any other citizens want to speak regarding the resolution? Yes, ma'am, come on down. And if you will, fill out a speaker card when you're done. Give us your name and address, please.
Of course, thank you. Thank you, Commissioners, so much for your time and attention and thoughtfulness to all of us here. And I just want to make sure I'm speaking in order. So this is that we can speak on the resolution on the floor, which is to reach out to Florida Forever to consider a possible purchase.
Correct.
Wonderful, thank you. So I think so many of us feel profoundly supportive and grateful for you to think of that. And I'm aware that Governor DeSantis is shrinking the amount of money significantly that's available for Florida Forever. And while I love and admire your collective thinking to reach out, that's of course no guarantee at all that they will say yes. We know just a handful of years ago they bought over 700 acres connecting, I believe, the Apalachicola and Wakulla through Florida Forever, which was fantastic. And we just have no idea if they would consider, an unusual and small purchase. So while we're so grateful of that offer, my hope still is that you recognize property rights means the property rights of your residents first, right? We want to care about the property rights of everybody here and not risk their wells getting contaminated. So it sounds to me, separate from the excitement and the enthusiasm of reaching out to Florida Forever, we want to stay on task and make sure that there's clarity, that there's going to be a vote of no on, help me with the language here, of modifying the comp plan, that it should stay agricultural, and that that's priority number one, as well as reaching out to Florida Forever. I admire so much the care about the property rights of the people that own that parcel. There is tens of thousands of individuals owning parcels all through Wakulla County, and they as well collectively are a much larger force and deserve that stewardship that we, as a person of faith or as a person of ethics, we all think we are commanded to steward the earth. And as Americans, respecting property rights, look at all the property rights of the people here, and those matter so much. So please stay on that vote no.
and let us not fall privy to maybe a false hope of Florida Forever, which we want, but is aspirational. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, ma'am, did you get her name? Ma'am, I'm sorry. Can you give us your name again for the record?
I apologize. I'm a mom. That's my name. But literally, it's Claudia Sperber on 1920 Wakulla Court in Tallahassee, Florida. And I've been coming to the Springs for well over a decade with my baby, who's now 6 feet tall.
Welcome to Wakulla.
Thank you.
Please fill out a speaker card with Miss Jessica. Miss Von Haney.
Kathleen Von Haney, Crawfordville. I'm here in my individual capacity as a private citizen. So on the initiative where you're trying to look at Florida Forever, I would encourage you to speak to St. J. Lumber. The feral tract, as you know, was a combination of a lot of sinkholes, a lot of caves underneath. In order to make that Florida Forever priority list, I think you're going to need to get a combination between a partnership with Southwest Georgia Oil and St. Joe, and perhaps even the Duggar family, so that we can go ahead and set up conservation easements for the remaining mapped portions of the cave, which I know you all have those maps, etc., and work on perhaps a development of regional impact, so it is a true gateway coming from Leon to Wakulla while still preserving the conservation areas similar to what they did with the feral tract. And that's just me speaking as a private citizen. So I encourage you to go forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Do we have any other citizens? Come on down, sir. Please give us your name and address and fill out a speaker card with Miss Jessica.
Stephen Morgan, 2625 Stonegate Drive in Tallahassee, Florida. Yeah, I've been involved with a Florida Forever purchase, and as two speakers ago said, yeah, it sounds good at first, but Florida Forever does have limited funds, and I think most of the proposals don't end up getting fully funded, so it sounds good, but as she said, I do hope there's a backup plan. I think compared to your meeting a month ago, where the chairman gave I think a new connotation of political science, bringing politics in here. Well, if you're trying to accomplish something, you go through a political process. And science involves exchange of ideas and listening to the other side. And that didn't happen last month. I'm glad there's a little more open-mindedness this month. Private property rights. Yeah, I heard you say last month, well, everybody's got the option to go buy the property themselves and do with it as they choose to. And often with private property rights, they go back to tragedy of the commons to justify. That was fully agrarian. I don't think we had any of those individuals who owned or wanted to put gas stations in. So things have changed, and private property rights really, I think, are something we need to reassess and realize that everybody's impacted by what happens anywhere. And I think private property rights beyond where one lives, you don't care about it in the same way. Private property rights beyond where one lives, you don't care about them in the same way.
Thank you, sir.
Southwest Georgia isn't Wakulla County.
Thank you, sir. Please fill out a speaker card with Miss Jessica. Mr. Damon.
Thank you, Commissioners. David Damon. Well, things kind of got flip-flopped around here tonight, and I didn't expect to be speaking on this, but I highly encourage you to pursue other avenues, including the Florida Forever. But as this gentleman has said, that's no guarantee. I think we need to be looking at other options, think out of the box. It'd make a wonderful welcome center. Ms. Lynn Arts has said that several times, and if you think about it, it's in the perfect location. Everybody goes right through there. It can be all about our aquifer and what it's sitting on top of. You can see these amazing graphics showing Chips Hole Cave and here you are kind of thing. So I think it's got a lot of potential. I think we could turn these lemons into lemonade. I'm glad to see y'all are doing this tonight as far as rescheduling this. And as far as property rights, I would think that the property rights of all these people and the thousands of people that would be affected with an oil leak over Chips Hole Cave, everyone downstream of that, everyone on Wakulla River that lives there, everyone that uses Wakulla River, even St. Mark's, all those people property rights would be stepped on. And I think we need to realize that one out-of-town oil company versus thousands of residents of Wakulla County and the future of Wakulla Springs, there's no question about how the scale is way there. So I'm glad we're postponing this. Everybody take a deep breath, go get a bottle of water, and let's talk about this in a couple of weeks or in a month or whatever. But I just want to say I encourage you to go down this path of looking at Florida forever, but look at other options too, is what I'd suggest.
Thank you. Please fill out a speaker card. Do we have any other citizens? Yes, ma'am. Come on down.
I'm Kathy Hallowell, and I spoke to you the last time. I read a petition that we've been circulating around the county, just asking you...
I interrupt you just 1 second. Now, are you speaking on the resolution that's on the floor? Because we're going to give you another chance to speak, citizens to be heard. Right now, we have a motion and a second to adopt a resolution tonight. Is that what you're speaking on?
No, I just want to hand in the petitions.
Okay, if you want to hand those in, you're welcome to speak on anything, but we need to dispose of this first, and these two ladies are in line right over here.
Who do I hand them into? Miss Jessica?
Yep, hand them over there. Any other citizens want to speak on the resolution on the table tonight? Going once, going twice, anyone else? Okay, any further discussion from the board?
I should just encourage them to reach out to their state representatives.
There we go.
And FDEP. Yep, and DEP.
And Florida Forever. And we don't care who buys it. Anybody wants to buy it, we'll reach out, don't be silent. We'll support that.
Oh, we do care who buys it.
Well, I mean, if it's somebody that, okay. Yeah, that was it.
Okay. It's one of the interesting things is if the caves in Wakulla County were, dry above ground, this would become a national park. So that's how you have to think about it.
I would hope it doesn't get to that point. We can go to Mariana for that. Very good. Any further discussion on the motion on the table? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimous. Okay, so now, I'm just going to announce again for folks who may have been outside that items 20 and 21, the comp plan change and the rezoning are both continued to another date. So we will be announcing that and coming back to speak in hopefully more favorable conditions. I encourage you not to speak if you don't want to, but I will not tell you cannot speak. So if you want to, I've got this lady here, and then the lady in the blue, and then ma'am in the white. We'll make you number 3. Come on down. And you've probably filled out a speaker card, so give me your name and I'm going to try to find it.
I did. My name is Gwen Beatty. I live at 1036 Bell Road, Havana, Florida.
Gotcha.
And thank you for allowing me to speak. I appreciate this. I would like to continue the thread that was introduced by Mrs. Renee Murray, if I may. It goes like this. Your regulations must contain performance standards that address buffering and open space requirements, address historically significant properties meriting protection, address the protection of springs, spring sheds, groundwater, and drinking water, and address protection of wildlife, recharge, and water quality in 100-year floodplains, sinkholes, wetlands, and important upland habitats. Objective 5 of the future land use plan is to ensure protection of natural and historic resources and limit development where severe topological and/or soil conditions exist. Under this objective, potable water wells and prime aquifer recharge areas must be protected from adverse impacts of development. This shall be achieved by adoption of land development regulations regulating the storage of hazardous and toxic materials in such areas. The county's policy is that the primary option is to restrict development where the development will adversely impact a natural resource. To fulfill this objective, Policy 5.8, you must limit activities that have the potential to contaminate water, including restrictions on storage and handling of toxic and hazardous materials through, among other things, transferable development rights and conservation easement.
Finally, the last item I want to point out under future land use is Objective 13, which addresses preservation of Wakulla County springs and water quality by requiring protection for the functions of groundwater recharge areas, springs, and spring sheds. For this, specialized studies shall be used to characterize on-site soils and determine locations of geologic features, including sinkholes, depressions, and depth of soil to lime rock. Sensitive karst features like sinkholes with a direct connection to the aquifer and stream-to-sink features shall be protected. I want to also mention that I am retired now, but I've got 22 years of experience conducting groundwater contamination assessments for the state of Florida. Once contamination is dumped on the ground, you never clean it up to zero. It's always going to be there in some residual form. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, Ms. Conroy, is that right? Help me out, Brandon.
You have the lady over here that was waiting.
I wasn't sure if these cards came from them or not.
No, those came from Jess.
Okay.
Do you have cards for you?
I have one.
Well, we'll need you to do another one just for, no, I'm sorry, you did fill out first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just give us your name, come on down, ma'am, we'll come back to these. We'll figure this out. Your name and address, please.
Ma Early, 25 Cardinal Court, Wakulla.
Gotcha.
I'm here to finish up a letter that was written to the county commissioners from Dr. Todd Kincaid. And it has to do with the reliability of the Cave Springs maps. It's towards the end of the letter. I just want to finish this. The 62 GPS located positions that were studied with an established loop methodology is routinely used in all survey efforts to minimize errors that accumulate over long distances between surveyed benchmarks. The Wakulla County Sinks cave system is comprised of approximately 32 miles of conduits that have been mapped from nearly 1,800 survey stations established over a period of more than 50 years. Conduit diameters exceed 10 feet nearly everywhere within the cave system and 50 feet in the largest sections. Dr. Kincaid says in this letter, I worked under a contract with the Florida State University and the Florida Geological Survey from 2001 to 2012 to compile all the historical surveys as well as those performed by the Woodville Cast Plain Project between 1995 and 2008 into a single map that is publicly available today. Nearly 50% of the surveyed and mapped conduits, including those that cross Bloxham Cutoff Road, are bounded by GPS located points to which the individual surveys were recited. Were rectified. The average spatial correction applied to the original surveyed station locations was less than 5 feet. Though further cave radio locations would be warranted before drilling additional wells into the caves, the maps as they are today are perfectly suited for aquifer protection planning. The spatial error in the position of the conduits, particularly between GPS located points, is on the order of feet and is thus irrelevant to the designation of protection zones defined on the basis of 100+ foot buffers around the map conduit center lines. The suggestion that because the cave system has not been surveyed by a licensed surveyor is nonsensical. Licensed surveyors do not and cannot work in underwater caves. Such a requirement is therefore tantamount to simply ignoring the existence of the caves and thereby reversing the substantial efforts made by the multitude of state and federal agencies and non-governmental organizations and private citizens to map the caves and document the increased vulnerability of the springs to Wakulla County as well as Wakulla County and Leon County's drinking water supply created by the existence of the caves. Now, in summary of this letter, where the FAS is unconfined, not overlain by the clay sediments comprising
Okay.
Thank you very much. Ma'am, come on down.
And I did fill out a card.
All righty. Just give us your name and address, please.
Forgive me, Jackie Tony, 198 Mount Zion Road. Thank you for your consideration of my comments. I appreciate your time this evening. Wow, that time went by fast. You know, what happens to you as you get older, time goes by really fast. I didn't think I was quite that old, though. I must admit, I wanted to talk about an interview that I heard this morning on WFSU, where they interviewed Commissioner Thomas and also Renee Murray from the Friends of Wakulla Springs. And Commissioner Thomas, you mentioned in the interview that you want to ensure that the property is acquired legally rather than dwelling its intended purpose. And then you mentioned your job is to not to say what we like, what we hate, what's good, what's bad. Our job is, have they followed the rules? Have they followed the process? He went on to say that these things come before us. We have an obligation to follow the law. So laws require interpretation. That's why lawyers get paid a lot of money. And then you have judges to determine which interpretation is correct. I would like to, from the conclusion you would draw from Commissioner Thomas's statements is that the comp plan amendment is following the law. I would like to question that. To make this change, the board is using laws governing small-scale amendments. However, the governing Florida statute states local governments can use small scales if property subject to proposed amendment is not located within an area of critical concern. Statute goes on to state comp plans may only be amended in such a way to preserve internal consistency of the plan for these small scales. Statutes governing the adoption of comp plans or amendments. Local governments shall follow expedited review process except for small-scale developments or plan amendments that are in areas of critical concern. Statute goes on to state more extensive state-coordinated review process required for all plan amendments in areas of critical state of concern. According to Florida law, Wakulla River and its adjacent drainage is an area of critical state concern. An area of critical state concern may be designated only for an area containing or having a significant impact upon an environmental or natural resource of a regional or statewide importance or an outstanding Florida water. Wakulla River is an outstanding Florida water. Received that designation from the Environmental Regulation Commission, which is a 7-member citizen body appointed by the governor. For the outstanding Florida water selection, the commission determined that the environmental, social, and economic benefits of the outstanding Florida water designation outweigh the environmental, social, and economic costs. A nearby gas station over the main tunnel that feeds an outstanding waterway would qualify as an area having a significant impact on a natural resource or statewide importance. This amendment has a potential to degrade an area of critical state concern, and therefore I think that it should go through the state coordinated review process. Thank you so much for your consideration of my comments.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. This one I was having trouble with.
That's what I was.
It looks like Conroy, St. Mark's, Florida.
Yeah. Starts with an L, maybe? L Conroy?
Is it?
Is that L or R? I think it's you.
That's you, sir? Come on down.
Robert Conroy, St. Mark's, Florida. I don't envy you all at all, especially when it comes to issues of property rights. The problem is, do we have any property rights? Because if I want to do anything on my property, there's like pages of rules, like how my door can be, whatever. But an incident that occurred a couple years ago was I was burning leaves, okay? Next thing I know, there's fire trucks, there's everything. Now, at the time, it was legal to burn leaves on my property. What I didn't know is there was buku laws regarding the time you can do it, how many feet you had to be from one place to another place, whatever. So they sent, somebody reported it, they sent the fire trucks out. Neither one of them had any water. The only person who had water was me. It was coming out my hose, okay? So, the fire guy from Tallahassee comes down, he's mad as hell at me. And he's threatening, he says he can fine me $25,000. And I'm like, for what? I'm burning leaves. He says, you're causing a hazard. Your smoke is blowing over the highway. Okay? He was right. You know? What I was doing on my property was putting other people's lives at risk. Okay? I do not have the right to do that. And everything I read in the Constitution says you have the full right to the fruits of your labors and your property as long as you do not interfere with the rights of others. We all have rights. Georgia has rights, but every citizen in the state of Florida owns Wakulla Springs. So who has the most? The citizens of the state of Florida or some out-of-town oil company? Seems an easy brainer, no-brainer to me.
There you go. Miss Patricia Shiflett. Patricia Shiflett. Welcome.
Patricia Shiflett, 44 Nuthatch Trail, which is in Songbird. I don't have, everybody has all the legal stuff and the stuff that I don't know about, so I don't want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is I am a mom and I'm a grandma. And I've been coming since I was little to Wakulla Springs. I haven't lived in Wakulla as long as some of these other people have. But now I brought my children, I bring my grandchildren now. When I say we're going to Wakulla Springs, they just about go through the roof. They get so excited to go jump off the high dive, or just to swim, or to ride the boat, or to go in the lodge and see Big Joe, or to talk about the room that's haunted there. And it doesn't need to be taken away. Another thing is that breaks my heart and almost makes me want to cry is my aunt and uncle that raised me down in Ocala. She passed away in 2009, her 70s. He just passed away at 95 and May 17th of this year. They got married and they honeymooned at Wakulla Springs in the late 50s. And it would break my heart to know that we no longer have Wakulla Springs. When I go out there, I think about it every time I go out there. Wonder what room they stay in. Wonder what they did when they was out here. They talked about that to me all my life growing up, about honeymooning at Wakulla Springs. And it breaks my heart to know that if this gets passed and it gets destroyed, and we no longer have it anymore, then I'll think about my aunt and uncle that used to come here and honeymooned at Wakulla Springs in the late 50s. What about my great-great-grandchildren? What about your great-great-grandchildren? And I'm just continuing on down the line. Do we want to destroy that? Because of some out-of-town gas company that's already destroyed other things? No, we don't. And I applaud you for wanting to do this land buy thing. I don't know much about that. Maybe it worked, maybe it won't work. But what will work is you don't let them put this gas station and car wash on top of this cave system and destroy my family's future and everyone else in Wakulla County's future. All down the generations. They will no longer have that to go to. And who else will go there and get married? There's marriages there. Who else will not be able to honeymoon there and stay there? And then continue to take their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren on down the line if we destroy it. There's been other places it's happened in where it's been destroyed. We don't want that here. I don't want that here. This is this is our Everglades. I heard the comment made that Wakulla Springs is equal to the Everglades.
Thank you, ma'am. That's your 3 minutes. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to state again because I see a few people have slid in, make sure everyone understands. Item number 20 and 21, the comp plan change and the rezoning have been continued to another date. So there will be no decision on that tonight, no vote on that tonight. I encourage you, if you have a speaker card, we can be here for several more hours, and that's okay. But I encourage you to hold your comments, but I'm not going to tell you that you have to. If you want to speak, you're going to have the right to speak. Yes, ma'am, come on down. Hang on, Ms. Dottie, we'll get you next. And I think you spoke on the resolution, but not on this, correct?
Correct.
Just give me your name again, if you don't mind.
Sure. And again, ladies and gentlemen of the commission, thank you once again for your time. This will be more clear and technical and less emotive. My name's Claudia Sperber, 1920 Wakulla Court, Tallahassee, Florida. I wanted to just make sure this did get on the record. This is obviously such a heated and important issue, and I know time is moving on, and I did want to make sure that the expert evidence and recommendation that I have gets logged on the record tonight. So thank you for putting up with a little more time here. So I'm going to read for a moment for the record a recommendation submitted by Dr. Ronald Green, a hydrologist and groundwater environmental and geophysics expert, dated August 2 to 2023. Board of County Commissioners. This is regarding a contaminant transport in the Woodsville Karst Plain. And this is Dr. Green's letter to you. Dear Board of County Commissioners, the Woodsville Karst Plain, henceforth the WKP, is the coastal plain that extends from eastern Franklin and Wakulla counties into the southeastern Leon County and most of southern Jefferson County. It is bounded on the north by the Cody Escarpment. WKP is underlain by the Florida Aquifer, a karst carbonate aquifer with numerous karst landforms such as sinkholes, swallets, and springs, including the well-known Wakulla Spring, which serves as a primary point of discharge from the WKP source cited here. Please forgive me again, I'm reading for the record. The Florida aquifer is the most important and prolific source of fresh water not only in Wakulla County, but also throughout the entire southeast U.S. Being a karst aquifer, the Florida aquifer exhibits preferential flow pathways that have formed over geologic time as a result of limestone dissolution by mildly acidic rainwater. The significance of this process cannot be overstated because preferential pathways are the primary conveyance system for groundwater flow through the WKP. The preferential groundwater flow paths in the WKP have developed into one of the longest and most extensive mapped karst conduit networks in the world. The cave system has been accurately mapped using dye tracing trough mapping of the potentiometric surface and cave diving source-sited. Most cave mapping was conducted as part of the Woodsville Karst Plain project. The WKPP follow National Speleological Society guidelines, which are universally recognized as the standard for cave mapping. Over most of the WKP, the Florida aquifer system is considered unconfined as the upper confining unit of the Florida aquifer is thin or absent to the south of the Cody Scarp. In the areas of the thin to absent confining layer, the vulnerability of the Florida aquifer system to contamination from degraded infiltration is higher.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I request a call here.
Ms. Dottie.
I'm confused.
Okay.
I have signed up for to speak on 20, and so I don't know what we're speaking on now because I filled out another card to do at the end.
Very good. Let me clarify. So 20 and 21 will not be heard at all tonight. We're continuing that to a later date, so you'll have another opportunity to speak at that time. I'm encouraging folks to not speak if that's what they want, but I can't tell you that you can't speak. And so can we maybe get a show of hands of how many people plan to still speak on citizens to be heard?
For what, 20 and 21, or just...
No, we've never even got to 20 and 21. We're still on citizens to be heard. And so...
Is that the number 2 thing I checked? Like there's a number 1 and a number 2?
Okay. That's after all of this. Yes, ma'am. So I think what I'm going to do, we don't have anyone outside still, do we? Okay. Any out there that still want to speak, you think? Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call these names, and that way we can eliminate whoever has left and does not want to speak, or if you're here and don't want to speak. Kevin Mason. M. Jan Uber, I think. Manatee Cove Drive. Theodore Zateslo. Come on down, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Theodore Zateslo, Tallahassee. I'm continuing the document that was written by Dr. Ronald Green that was presented a little while ago. Continuing that, due to the absence of sediments overlying the Floridan aquifer, contaminants released at the surface can rapidly infiltrate into the karst aquifer with minimal or no filtration. Of paramount concern is the release of hydrocarbon pollutants from gas stations located in close proximity to the water-filled cave system. Groundwater flow from the source areas to Wakulla Springs has been measured to be 1/3 to 1 mile per day. Consequently, a pollutant that enters the cave system would be discharged at Wakulla Springs in a matter of days, with minimal opportunity for dilution or degradation. Given this vulnerability to rapid discharge with limited opportunity for filtering, gas stations should not be located near the cave system that discharges at Wakulla Spring. An important question is, how close is too close for a gas station to be located to the WKP cave system? Public records provide the basis for meaningful guidance. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection Map Direct Program, Contamination Locator Map, Oculus documents, including certified engineering reports with site-specific geologic cross-sections and petroleum-contaminated groundwater plume maps, and the DEP Historical Contaminated Facilities List, contain public records documenting actual petroleum contaminant transport horizontally and vertically below land surface through the karst terrain in WKP. Although there are numerous instances of hydrocarbon degradation in the Floridan aquifer, following are two examples of releases from gas stations located in the WKP. The Texaco Food Store, number 4208 gas station, on the southwest corner of Capitol Circle and Bluntstown Highway 20 in Tallahassee, is located in the northwestern part of the WKP. The April 13, 1986 discharge reporting form reported that 9,687 gallons of leaded fuel were released from a fuel supply line punctured by a survey stake. Subsequently, a December 26, 2006 DRF indicated an estimated 100 gallons of unleaded gasoline was released as a result of loose connection on a fuel delivery truck. A variety of petroleum contaminants, including benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, and toluxylene, naphthalene, TRPH, PAHs, and methyl tert butyl ether, MTBE, have been detected at depths of 115 to 125 feet. These petroleum contaminants are attributed to the documented releases at the gas station. Horizontal migration of petroleum plume.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Early Carnival Court. Is it Roland? Welcome, sir.
I'm Roland Doyle from 25 Cardinal Court. Catch up here. The horizontal migration of the petroleum plume encompassed areas north under Highway 20, east under Capitol Circle southwest, and west in the Woodville area and south of the site. The contaminants migrated lateral distances approximately 400 feet to a depth greater than the depth of the WKP cave system. A release of the Wakulla Old Sheriff's Office gas station for fleet vehicles, also known as the BOCC chamber site, located on 22 Aaron Road in Crawfordville, provides additional basis for calculating lateral migration of hydrocarbons. Various petroleum contaminants, including benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, toluxylene, and methyl tertiary butyl ether, were transported below the land to surface to a depth of 105 feet, and they were released from this gas station. Horizontal migration of the petroleum-contaminated plume was more than 400 feet, including the area north of the Aaron Road, south across High Drive, east across the parking lot, and west across the neighboring wooded property. Again, the depth of the contaminated infiltration is greater than the depth of the WKP cave system.
Documentation of these two releases and others support the premise that the gas stations and other services that involve the use and treatment, storage, and disposal of regulated substances, hazardous substances, and petroleum products should not be located within 500 feet of the known cave systems in the WKP. Currently, there is a gas station proposed to be constructed over the Chips Hole Cave system, which is part of the WKP system. The proposal by Southwest Georgia Oil Company, known as SWGOC, is to develop a 16-pump gas station, a car wash, and convenience store directly above the Chips Hole Cave system. The SWGOC proposal is inadvisable because of the substantial risk from rapid transportation of inadvertently released petroleum pollutants and other contaminants through the cave system to Wakulla Springs. Resource conservation should be paramount in the objective of the Wakulla County government officials. Resource conservation benefits the community. Resource conservation is consistent with the Plan Objective 13, Protect Wakulla County Springs and Water Quality. The best government practice is to conserve natural resources and encourage the reduction of pollution resources rather than allowing the introduction of additional sources.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. Wally Ford. Wally Ford. Ryan Means. Michael Keys. Welcome.
Hey, Michael Keys, 58 Ways Back, Crawfordville, Florida. I just want to say thank you. What I told the news person outside was that, this was the best of what Wakulla County has to offer. And I think you guys, kind of met the task and did the right thing by postponing this. Of course, I wish it had just, not been here in the first place, but I especially want to thank you, Chairman Thomas, for listening to all that noise outside. It wasn't just noise, it was a lot of people who really cared. And so, given the situation, you did the right thing, because I don't think either decision that you could have made would have been legally defensible. I think we would have had a sunshine law violation, just because of the bad audio out there. I couldn't hear a darn thing, and I had my ear right next to the speaker. So again, thank you for doing the right thing, all of you commissioners. And I hope the folks from Southwest Georgia Oil and Gas were watching and listening. I hope Sheriff Harvey was listening, and so that they understand, how important this is and how passionate people are, and that also that you guys are able to do the right thing and listen to the citizens. There's a whole lot of water under this bridge already, and there's been a lot said about property rights, and I do encourage each of you to look at, you've got a lot of letters. Some of them were from very competent lawyers, and I know you have one here for the county too, but I hope you look at those extra carefully, because I know you got some that may help educate you on future decisions, because we all care about property rights, but there's more to that bundle than just simple, did they fill out the application correctly? So look at those really closely, because this is going to come up in other ways, and unfortunately this gas station may come up again too. So that's going to be very important, I know, and how you look at that, because there's more to the story than just a black and white property rights issue, because all of us have property rights that live here in this county. So thanks so much again.
Thank you, sir. John Rojas, Broken Bow Trail. Did I get that right? Jonathan Reeves. Robert L. Baker III. Robert L. Thompson. Mr. Jack there we go. Come on down, sir.
Robert Thompson, 46 Thompson Road, Crawfordville, Florida. I volunteered to continue reading the letter to the Wakulla County BOC written by Ronald Green. The best government practice is to conserve natural resources and encourage reduction of pollution sources rather than allowing the introduction of additional pollution sources and subsequently dealing with unwieldy recovery of inadvertently released hazardous substances and pollutants before they reach the cave system which discharges to Wakulla Springs. Any release of contaminants at a gas station close to the WKP cave system would pose a risk of contamination to Wakulla Spring. The SWGOC facility, as proposed, should be rejected by the Wakulla Board of County Commissioners. And that concludes the letter written by Dr. Ronald Green. I'm going to continue reading a second document through my 3-minute allocation. This one is also to the Wakulla County BOC, written by Dr. Christopher Werner and Casey McKinley. The letter was written May 12, 2023. The Woodville Karst Plain Project, WKPP, has been intimately involved in underwater cave exploration, surveying, and mapping since the mid-1980s within Wakulla County, Florida. The WKPP is a tax-exempt, nonprofit organization under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. Our survey and mapping techniques have been established based on standards of the National Speleological Society, NSS, of which the WKPP has been an affiliated project since November 26, 1990. Our surveys and maps are based on strict adherence to NSS guidelines for cave surveys recognized by the United States Geological Survey. WKPP research, surveys, and maps are recognized and utilized by state of Florida agencies, including the Florida Geological Survey, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Northwest Florida Water Management District, and the Florida Department of Transportation. In addition, WKPP surveys and maps are recognized and used by federal agencies, including the Department of Agriculture Consumer Services, National Forest Service.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jack Rudlow. Welcome back, sir. We couldn't have a party without you. Yeah, thank you for resending the trespass notice and all the police stuff. But here we are again. Okay. And as I was saying before in the other meeting, I have no doubt you're going to vote this thing 4-1 and you're going to push it through. The only thing I can say that's impressive is that the massive amount of people that were here, the people that have come out, the heat's going to be on you guys. And you're going to have to pay attention to it at some point. Maybe you can ignore people in subdivisions and the woods being smashed around them and get away with it. You're not going to get away with this. But anyway, that said. But I want to talk about a little bit of history here. And early in the 1960s, when I was first starting Gulf Specimen, I was living in Tallahassee and I was commuting down to the coast, trying to look for a place to live and get started with the aquarium or whatever it is. And right on 319, around the area of this soda station, Duggar property and all that, the highway caved in. It takes the old timers will remember that, and I've been asking questions. I didn't dream it. And there was a huge hole that swallowed the entire highway there on both sides, and you had to drive around in the ditches to be able to get around it. And it took them weeks, maybe months, to fill that in. I don't know, do any of you guys remember that? Yeah, well, it was 1961 is what I'm thinking. 62 is what we're talking about. But it was in the same area, the karst plain, and it just caved in. You'd stand on the edge of it and look way down there. And it took tons and tons of rock and rubble and everything else to fill that in, and it took weeks for that to happen. And then finally, they got it to where it was paved over. It was a dangerous place. If there was a service station or anything else like that, I don't care if you had triple walls on it and it came down like that, it would crack and it would be open and it would be right into the caves there. Check it out for yourself. Look in the historical records. I'm asking people to do that. but it's going to show there couldn't be a worse place to put something like this. So I'm grateful that you're going to consider getting this thing sold. We're going to work with Jason Schoaf and with Corey Simpson and whoever else we can to get this thing acquired. I'd like to see you guys get off the hot seat. But believe me, when you vote for this thing, which I know you're going to do because you have prior commitments and prior obligations, but when you vote for these things, it's going to be one of the worst things you ever did. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Clarence Payne. Clarence Payne. Stephen Martin. Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Sherry Glass. Sherry Glass. Madeline Carr. Madeline Carr. Gail Fishman. Kathleen Von Haney.
Kathleen Von Haney, Crawfordville. I'm here in my individual capacity as a private citizen. I don't want to lug this stuff over to the community center, so we're going to put on the record today so I don't have to lug it. I'll give you copies before we leave. I got the 8 copies plus. Exhibit number 1, Dr. Ronald Green's expert statement and CV. Exhibit number 2, Dr. Todd Kincaid's expert statement and CV. Number 3, the WKPP letter to the Board of County Commissioners. Number 4, Dr. Christopher Warner's resume. Number 5 and 6, the WKPP cave maps. Number 7, the scientific references on karst and aquifer vulnerability, which I handed to you guys November 7th of 2022, and Commissioner Nichols, when you came on board, I gave you your own private set. And I've got the booklets here. The booklets are exhibits 13, 14, 15, and 16. We also have the exhibit number 9, which are the short versions of the deep plume maps for the Sheriff's Office underneath Commission Chambers and the Texaco station that we previously put up on the screen for another meeting. And number 17 is the Hernando County set of ordinances that leaves with cave protection language that some people aren't sure exists, but I gave it to staff back in December of 2022, and we've discussed it many times, so I've got that set as well. And I also have multiple links to the underwater cave systems that exist in Hernando County, because people didn't understand that there were some, and they have a whole website for Florida caves where they talk about how difficult the dives are, and if you go here, you're going to die because you don't have enough experience, that kind of stuff. So you want to have that. And then we made a request for the supplemental record for the prior videos that were there that we want to have introduced into evidence. And I also have a hot topic memo, which I think I've got an exhibit number for it. I'll give it to you in the record. Since we're talking about the heat, this one is exhibit number 10. So DEP has identified this site of the petroleum plume that is affecting soft chopping well number 5 as a difficult site with their head committee members. They had a hot topic memo in their Oculus documents saying they need to have additional assessment. It was supposed to be the beginning of monitoring well inspections starting today for the next 5 days. They also referred to the memo from our county administrator, David Edwards, who is asking for state taxpayer money to clean that up. He says, based upon the discussions with persons who are experiencing these matters, the county anticipates cleanup of the contamination could be well over $1 million. If that is the case, it will create a tremendous hardship for Wakulla. And then later on, Wakulla County is not in a position to front the substantial cash resources this project will require, bearing the expenditures associated with the cleanup of the contamination by using assets on hand or increasing debt service are not a financially sound option for Wakulla County. We can't afford another oil spill. We can't even afford the one that's under the commission chambers. Thank you.
Carol Kalinsky. Carol Kalinsky, come on down. Welcome.
Hello. So we're all in good mood because it's not going to happen tonight, right? That would be great if Florida Forever got that property and we could all go away. But, some other people have mentioned that's a underfunded program, and I hope. But just in case, I think we need to still build a record and just kind of get an understanding about what is going on here. And by that I mean, recently we've heard property rights, and what I keep hearing is that you have to follow the law. But that doesn't make any sense, because the law says that when you're considering a comp plan amendment, the law you file is the comp plan, and you have to be consistent with the comp plan. So two other people have read some portions of the comp plan. I want to talk about the conservation element. The goal of the conservation element is to conserve, protect, and appropriately manage the natural resources of Wakulla County in order to ensure the highest environmental quality possible, and to promote stewardship of these resources for the existing and future residents and visitors of the county. That's the goal that you should be thinking of for any comp plan amendment, okay? That has to do under this element anyway. To meet that goal, what local government must do is they must protect surface water quality to ensure that water quality is not allowed to degrade below present conditions. That water would include that of Wakulla Springs, St. Mark's Springs, Spring Creek Springs, and the sections of the St. Mark's, Wakulla, Sopchoppy, and Ocklackney Rivers, and Appalachia Bay that have been declared by DEP as outstanding Florida waters. Wakulla County is within a high aquifer recharge area. The groundwater objectives and policies under the conservation element require that development proposals meet special basin criteria for sensitive karst areas. These are set out by DEP and Northwest Florida Water Management District's design and performance standards. The county shall maintain maps of aquifer vulnerability, such as the Wakulla Aquifer Vulnerability Assessment. And the county must utilize the vulnerability maps in project evaluations. I didn't see any evidence of that whatsoever in the application process. Another conservation objective requires that the county preserve and protect biodiversity and ecological value of the natural resources. And to meet this objective, you need to coordinate with DEP to complete mapping of vegetative communities within the county, GIS, and to provide a referral resource for the review process.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
John Harley. John Harley. Kelly Keys.
Hi again.
Welcome.
Kelly Keys, 58 Razorback Road. I'm going to edit this a bit based on what happened tonight, but there are still a couple things I want to say. Especially, I'm speaking, I know everybody here is probably from Wakulla County, but people who are still on Zoom, I wanted to just address something from the last meeting. I worked all day the Sunday before to be at that meeting, and a friend who homeschools arranged her whole day to be here, a friend who works on the water, came in on a sunny day, et cetera, et cetera. And so I've heard a lot the last couple of weeks about how disrespectful those water people acted, and it's true. There was disrespect that happened, and I understand that. And none of the people I've mentioned, though, were part of that. And we were sitting in the audience waiting to hear from you about your opinions and thoughts about the ordinance and about the springs. Not to pass the ordinance, but just your opinions and thoughts. And so that was disrespectful to dozens of people who were not part of the sit-in or anything else or yelling at you. But I want to also get around to the hotheads that are on my side. Again, I'm not really in favor of this sides thing, but one of them is my husband. He's here, and he wasn't planning to be here. He was supposed to be out west, but he's here for a couple of days, and so I'm going to say this anyway because I know he won't say it about himself. My husband is a wildlands firefighter. That's where he's going tomorrow, back to Arizona to fight fires, something that my family has endured and supported him doing for 30 years. He's texted me before to tell me his coworkers are in a pickup surrounded by fire, and he's too far away to do anything about it but wait and see if they make it out okay. He
please come home to let me know that it was him leaving on a rescue once while his arm was pinned underneath TV with fire just yards away. So believe me, when y'all talk about private property rights, we understand, because he literally puts his body on the line to protect private property every year. And so his reasons for being a hothead, when his hard-earned scientific knowledge is ignored by his county commission, that's what happens. I'm going to speak more about private property rights at the next meeting, so I'll leave that for now. But for now, I want to say, Commissioner Thomas, please, please, I almost turned me into a hothead myself reading Facebook. Have the discussions here. This is our community forum. We can bring everything here and hear each other out. There really aren't two sides to this issue. There's protecting the springs, which I think everybody wants to do, and there's the truth. And if we respect each other, if we talk about all the truth here at this forum, that's where we can get into the bottom of it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Gordon McGill. Gordon McGill. Harvey Lineback. This one just says Christie, I think.
No, it's probably Bay County.
Yep. There we go. Welcome back.
Christy McElroy, Gulf County and Leon County. I have to say, when I pulled up, I was a little surprised, all the people outside. And although I appreciate you pivoting and changing the agenda item for a better venue, I think you owe your staff a big gratitude and thank you, because what I felt as a citizen and a longtime resident of Florida is that wasn't really fair to them. I felt like some of them were there to protect the fortress, and that's not what staff and government is meant for. It's meant to serve the people. And we need to think about that in the future, because you didn't have to be a brain surgeon to figure out that this room was going to be packed. And with the heat being 110 outside, with probably close to 100 people standing outside, and that doesn't even include the capacity of the zone room, it was not very well thought out. And it does not bode well for your government and your people working together. And I just needed to say that for the record.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Westy Joe DeHaven Smith. Welcome.
Madam Commissioner, gentlemen, I want to say I support any and all actions that you take to protect Wakulla Springs. And if that includes purchasing properties or having them purchased by the state of Florida or other entities, so good for you. And I encourage you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Tyree Jordan. Tyree Jordan. Susan Robinson. Mary Alda Bothrop. Don Adams. Miriam White. Frank Druda. David Carpenter. Lynn Arts, Miss Arts.
Lynn Arts, 6 Frank Jones Road. Hello again. As you know, our county is blessed with incredible natural resources. And our citizens are incredible resources as well. I'm in awe of the many professionals with specialized expertise that call our county home. It's not new or unusual that citizens write an ordinance for our county. I know of at least two, and one is still in effect now nearly 20 years later. In recent weeks, I've heard lots of conflicting statements and opinions. This isn't legal. Yes, it is. DEP said this. No, they didn't. And it can be hard to discern what is factual, what is legal. But when you're faced with facts that don't align and with conflicting legal opinions, that's when you should seek out even more information. Go directly to sources, get additional legal opinions, and try to reach a resolution. I don't know if you're aware that at least 3 attorneys helped to write the citizens ordinance that was not discussed at the last meeting publicly. And I believe they think their proposal is practical, beneficial, and legal. And I bet money that they're probably right. I sincerely hope that one of you will bring this back for full consideration and discussion at a future meeting or workshop. As someone who stood in your shoes, I hope you'll take this in the way I intend. But I believe strongly that commissioners should show courtesy and respect to everyone. And that means seconding a fellow commissioner's motion for discussion, even if you're not inclined to support it. That means allowing citizens to speak on an item that they've taken the time to come here to a meeting so that they can talk to you for 3 minutes. And that means considering the work product that knowledgeable volunteers have spent many hours crafting. I also want to say, and I hope you'll take this the way I mean it, that I was surprised by the appearance after Commissioner Hess made his motion. No one looked around to see who was going to second. And your solidarity and silence gave the impression, and I say impression, to many that you knew no one was going to second.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm sorry I can't finish my comment.
David Dela Paz. Jasper Musgrave. Gwen Staten. Jasmine Michael. Brian Lupiani. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, and thanks, you got it right.
Oh, good.
I'm Brian Lupiani. I live at 607 McDaniel Street in Tallahassee, and if there's time after I finish this up, I'm going to make a comment about that. First thing I'd like to do is kind of clean up here. I'm going to finish the statement that was being read from Dr. Todd Kincaid. And here's a word you like, summary. We'll get this over with. Where the Florida Aquifer System, or FAS, is unconfined, meaning not overlain by the clayey sediments comprising the Hawthorne Formation, the FAS and the springs and wells that it supplies is significantly more vulnerable to contamination from surface sources than where the FAS is confined. Relative to wellhead and aquifer protection, the entirety of that area, and in parentheses, the entirety of the Wakulla Coast Plain east of Spring Hill Road and west of the St. Marks River, is equivalent to EPA Zone 3. And just an aside here, other references are to EPA Zone 2, so 3 may be a typo. To continue, EPA Zone 2 delineations are typically based on estimated travel time. The use of buffer zones surrounding net conduits in the Wakulla Leon Sinks Cave system
as the basis for Zone 2 or the equivalent level of land use restrictions is not only appropriate, but constitutes the best available technology and best available information upon which to render land use restrictions aimed at protecting the public's water supply and the environment. To ignore that information, or to ignore that information in the process of developing aquifer protection zones would therefore be professionally negligent and will put springs and well owners at an elevated risk of contamination from surface sources. Sincerely, Todd Kincaid, PhD, Senior Associate Hydrogeologist, Hydrogeologic Modeler, Shannon Wilson Company. And if I could, I'll try and pick up the letter from the WKPP from Dr. Werner and Casey McKinley with the Wakulla Coast Plain project. I think this is about where Bob, I believe, left off. Third paragraph. The WKPP survey and map data is not proprietary. It is provided as a volunteer effort free of charge to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, FDEP, and Florida Geological Survey. The data incorporates rigorous quality control and quality assurance required for Geographic Information System standard files. The data collection, mapping, plotting, quality control, and quality assurance processes follow the NSS guidelines. Any county or municipality can download the underwater cave map data directly and without charge from the official FDEP GIS server, given that they have a licensed GIS software program.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. One last sentence. I've mentioned I'm from Tallahassee, and if you guys are not careful, I'm from your future, too. So watch what you do here.
Thank you, sir.
Wakulla is a gem. You don't want to lose what you got.
Thank you. Ms. Jenny Jones. Ronald Patrick. Laura Wharton. Welcome.
Hey, my name's Laura Horton. I live at 46 Osprey Circle, Crawfordville. Thank you for this time. First of all, I wanted to let you know that Exhibit 18 will be also provided to you at the end of the meeting. It's the opposition to requested comprehensive plan amendment. And then I wanted to take up with the letter from Dr. Christopher Werner and Casey McKinley from the WKPP. The WKPP and its contacts within the National Speleological Survey, Florida Geological Survey, and the United States Geological Survey unequivocally state that there is no certification process for any underground cave survey data or maps. All cave surveys and maps are required to follow the strict NSS guidelines and processes for inclusion in the USGS, FGS, and FDEP geographic information systems. Any suggestion that underwater cave survey data needs to be certified before it can be recognized is false. Underwater cave data, as well as other geotechnical data, should be considered as part of a larger professional geological survey when significant investment is a factor for decision makers. The WKPP have been recognized for their outstanding service to the state of Florida by the Florida House of Representatives, and that will be attached to this. The Florida Governor's Cabinet recognized the WKPP on March 10, 2011, by way of a resolution sponsored by Florida Chief Financial Officer Alex Sink for the connection of the Leon Sinks Cave System to Wakulla Springs. Governor Charlie Crist, Attorney General Bill McCollum, and Agriculture Commissioner Charles Bronson unanimously passed the motion. And this letter was from Dr. Christopher Werner, who is the WKPP Science Director, and Casey McKinley, who is the WKPP Project Director. So that's the end of that letter. Personally, I just wanted to tell you, I retired from teaching after 40 years, and I went to work at Wakulla Springs State Park. And that's where I am currently working. I took off tonight so I could be here. So I'm missing out on money being here, but it's worth it to me. And I'm speaking completely for myself, not for them. My job is front desk agent, and my job is there to welcome people and set up all kinds of reservations. I would be happy to personally pay for boat rides for any of you and anyone from the Georgia Oil Company to go out there and see that river from a boat in that unspoiled area of Wakulla Springs, and maybe they might just get a glimmer of why we feel so passionately about this place.
Thank you, ma'am. Mike Whelan, I think, when's your way? All right. Eugene Watkins, you're last, bring it home.
Eugene Watkins, Crawfordville, Florida. And again, I like the idea of trying to buy the land, and I appreciate you postponing the vote on changing the comp plan. What I want to talk about a little bit, I too had to change what I was going to say tonight. I'd like to talk a little bit about workshops. We need workshops where citizen groups and Southwest Oil will be able to work together and develop regulations and mitigate where fuel tanks are located on their property. If workshops had been set up and all parties worked together, all this antagonistic emotion could have been avoided. At a workshop, Southwest Georgia Oil and Wakulla Springs Protection Groups may be able to come to an agreement on where fuel tanks would be located in relationship to cave systems. A couple of workshops may have avoided all the high tensions we have now. My recommendation is the commission pause this change, which you did, and that Southwest Georgia Oil Company and Wakulla Springs Protection Groups agree to have a workshop and come to a solution everyone can accept. Let's work together instead of just talking at each other. And I can just let you know, I felt like, that I was not getting any opportunity to have input into this as a citizen that wanted to have a say at what was going on. And I just hope in the future you guys will look more at doing workshops where everybody can attend. Thanks.
Thank you. That ends the third item on our agenda tonight. We have the fourth. Yeah, we have no awards and presentations. Do we have a motion to? Yes, ma'am.
I filled out a speaking card. I did too. Yeah, I have more for citizens to be heard, section 2.
The second one. Did you fill it out for the second one?
I didn't check either box. I asked what I was supposed to, and he said that's fine. What I got.
And you wanted to speak at citizens to be heard?
She wants to speak on the item 20 and 21.
So was your speaker card for item 20 and 21?
21.
Okay. All right. So those. Okay. So since that was tabled, we're not calling those, but you can still speak as citizens to be heard. And so I'll invite you to come up and speak now. And if you will, fill out another speaker card when you're done, and so you can go after her. No, that's okay. This is a little confusing for all of us tonight, so give us your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Dale Hankinson. My address is 809 North Blair Street, Tallahassee, Florida. But I also own property in Wakulla County. In fact, I own 5 acres on River Sink Road. My son owned property on River Sink Road, which abutted Whiskey Still Sink, which is one of the sinks that many of these divers went into in mapping part of the karst system here. I wanted to say thank you very much for postponing consideration on items 20 and 21 until another time due to the fact that so many other people here were outside. I just wanted to state that I was very concerned with the way the meeting was going for the first half an hour or 45 minutes, whatever, with all those people outside in the heat. There were numerous people that came to the door and were addressed the sheriff's officers that they wanted to be able to come and use the restroom. They were told that they could not come in. There were other people who came in and said, my husband has a heart condition. Is there any place where he can come in? He was told no, he could not come in. it was really intolerable, the situation out there. It was extremely hot. There was very little shade. There was not anywhere to sit. And you could not hear the proceedings in here at all. Even if you were standing right next to the two TV monitors, you could not hear it at all. So I do think it was the right decision to postpone it to another time when the public would have an actual opportunity to attend. And
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
If you will, please fill out another speaker card and check that one. The citizens will be heard number one. Sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon or good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Terry Ryan from Tallahassee, 2538 Stonegate Drive. I am the co-founder of the Tallahassee Sewage and Wakulla Basin Advocacy Group. I'm a retired commercial banker of 20 years. I owned a national mortgage banking company for 30 years, operating in 20 different states. That would think that I know something about surveys, property surveys. At the last meeting, I understand things were tabled or not discussed because of concerns about surveys being put into, survey requirements, that is, being put into the ordinance. This morning, I had a good conversation with a fellow by the name of Alan Nobles. He has Nobles Survey Company, which had been in business for about 40 years until he sold out to somebody else out in Texas a couple of years ago called Sam's. Had a very good conversation with Alan, and he specifically indicated strongly that surveys can be done, okay, can be put into an ordinance requiring certain surveys to be done indicating where tunnels are, caves are, and that kind of thing. Because the cave divers have had different electronic information put in on maps indicating where everything is. So that can be done. And I've got an email here that I'll be glad to share with y'all. The other thing is there a precedence for something like this? Yes, there is. Where? Wakulla County. The highways which I've been rebuilding, they asked him to come out with his crew and show them exactly where the caves are and the tunnel systems. So we've got a precedence, and I'd like to suggest that take a look at the email here. I don't know who to give this to, but take a look at it, contact them, okay? Have staff contact them. But now that the other agenda item, number 20, has been postponed, let's think about the ordinance again, okay? No matter what happens on number 20, we're still going to have problems companies come in, and they may be on top of a tunnel or a cave or something. So let's go ahead and have an ordinance in place before they get here, okay? Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Please fill out a speaker card with Miss Jessica. All righty. So let's see. Next up is consent. Do we have a motion to approve the consent? Do we have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimous. We have no consent items pulled for discussion. General business item was tabled. We go to public hearing, item number 19.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a public hearing. We're requesting board approval to conduct a public hearing and adopt an ordinance that amends section 30.024 of the Wakulla County Code of Ordinances related to standards for golf carts and golf cart operation on designated county roads. What this ordinance does is, effective October 1, it will change your local code to comply with the new state law that was amended this legislative session.
Motion to approve. Second. A motion and a second. Jessica, any speakers? None. Discussion from the board?
Just making it consistent with state law. That's what we need to do.
Here we go. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimous. That ends our public hearing. Planning and zoning items were continued. Commissioner agenda items, none scheduled. County attorney.
Nothing additional this evening.
County administrator.
Yes, I'd like to request the budget workshop that was scheduled for August 21st. We'd like to move that to September 5th. And talking to Brandy, there's been no changes to any of the items. Therefore, a budget workshop, it would make better sense to be on the September 5th
5th, September 5th meeting at 4 p.m.
September 5th?
Yes, 4 p.m.
Okay, good.
That's right before our normal meeting?
Okay.
That's on a Tuesday.
Right. Labor Day.
Got it.
Also, Mr. Chairman, we have Oh, I'm sorry.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Any citizens on that? Discussion from the board? Hear none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimous. Also, we're very close to getting our funding from the U.S. Treasury as far as the restore project that we turned in for the force main on Lift Station 76. And we're hoping to get it any day now. We need to get the contractor started. We've already got half of the work done. We need to get the other half done. And what we're asking the board is Michelle can get it exactly right.
We'd like to get a vote to have David have signature authority in case we get it sometime between now and the next meeting.
A motion for approval.
Second. Motion and a second.
We'll get it going.
Citizens on that? Discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimous. Also, to let you know, we have the final agreement from SBA to purchase the tower at the sheriff's office. I think we have come to final resolution. In fact, I sent it while I'm sitting here today, I sent it to Heather, to ask her to look at it one last time. And we've also got a crew over there, now they're actually working to survey do a survey of the tower to make sure that it's in proper working order and it'll do what it says it'll do and all that good stuff before we proceed purchasing. But the way that'll work is as soon as we get the information or Heather is okay with it and we check off all the final boxes, we're going to get SBA to sign it, bring it back to us, then we send it to the Gulf Triumph. They have to approve just the language of it. They're just going to give us a head nod. And as soon as we do that, we'll bring it before you guys, and we'll move forward with the purchase. And assuming that all looks good, in good shape, that's going to avoid us building one. That avoids us building one and saves about $250,000. And also moves up our timeline and getting us on our emergency radio system tremendously. Because we're also doing work, going to be starting work over, hopefully this week, over at Smith Creek to get that tower ready to go as well. The existing state tower there. Very good. That's it. All righty.
Not quite. If I might, Mr. Chair, I have one additional request for the board this evening, and that is to schedule a special meeting to consider a matter related to an appeal to the Board of Adjustments. Staff is requesting that this special meeting be conducted Thursday, September 7th at 10 a.m. in this room here.
Do you need a motion?
I would love that, please.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second. Motion and a second. Any citizens on that? Discussion from the board?
What day to
Could we do that on Tuesday?
Maybe,
We're only starting until 4. We did it at 3. We can.
that is a possibility, I guess. Yeah, we could probably make that work if there's. But I guess my only concern is if you have a budget workshop scheduled at 4 and the matter of the appeal takes longer than an hour, then you may run into some timing issues.
I just can't see an appeal on a pickleball taking more than an hour.
I would.
An hour is a long time to talk about pickleball court.
Sure. However, the board would like to proceed.
I'll say what Chuck said. I'm good with that.
Who made the motion?
I'll change the motion that's okay. That's no problem at all. To 3 o'clock on September 6th.
Second.
5th.
All in one day.
September 5th.
Sorry, Quincy.
Yes, at 3.
Okay.
And then budget at 4 and then,
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimous. Anything else from county staff?
I think that's enough.
Okay, very good. Citizens be heard, number 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Samir Hernandez Geraldo. Welcome.
Yes, Samiri Hernandez Giraldo. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you again. This is much better than what happened outside. There were lots of people, students, even babies, families, elders. It was really hot. And when I was there, I was thinking, man, I can just change this by just going to my car, have the AC on, or go inside. I have water. There are many people in the United States and parts of the world that they don't have water, clean water or water alone at all. And so I said, well, if you're an atheist, we have given a great gift. And we have to be good stewards of that great gift that we have given. We have people in our house. I live in 8 Old Spring, Mysterious Waters. We have people from different parts of the world. We like to have them in our house, and they say that we are so lucky to have Wakulla Springs. Now I have to say, well, we're lucky, but we have to really keep fighting to protect it. I prepare a whole thing to tell you, but since, and I'm very thankful for that, honestly, that you change, because of, at first, honestly, I have to tell you that I immediately thought that, okay, this is purposely done. They want us to get tired of fighting this, and, the cause, they wanted to lose the momentum and all of that. And that was because of a lack of trust. Because, I've considered that there's rampant development. We don't have time to fight all that and all that. But water, to me, that's too low. That's too far. And that's why we have so many people. We have not here, when you have approved all sorts of developments, we don't have time again. It's very common. Development, it's going all around. But water, that's, again, to me, that's too low. That's too far. So even though, I was thinking the right way, in fact, the chair corrected me. I thank him. I say, thank you, because he clarified that the reason that you changed the meeting was precisely, to have a better venue where it accommodate more people, that we can have AC, air conditioner. So it's like, thank you for correcting me. Because I was guided by lack of trust because of the water issue. Not because of rampant development and all of that, but because of water. Because you even considered, that gas station that represents a big risk. So again, thankful, and we can work together. And I hope from now until then that you actually prepare, that you read all the evidence, so that we can make a better decision.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Tony Kidder. David Damon. Jack Nispel. Miss Dottie. You're the last.
Save the best for last.
You're the last. Yes, ma'am.
I drive over 50 miles round trip to do this,
Well, you're welcome.
and which is why I won't leave, and why I stay for this part. And I'll try to do this one quicker than the last one. It's not the same speech. And I'm going to read it, though, so it can be quick. Wakulla Spring is designated by the Florida legislature as an outstanding Florida spring. Chapter 373, Florida Statutes, relates to water resources. Part 8 in the chapter relates to Florida Springs and aquifer protection. Within the Florida Springs priority focus areas, the Department of Environmental Protection map showed the Wakulla Spring and Wakulla Spring Tunnel surrounding land areas that are likely to be most adversely affected by certain activities. Florida Statute Section 373.802, Parent 5 defines priority focus area as the area or areas of a basin where the Floridan aquifer is generally most vulnerable to pollutant inputs, where there is a known connectivity between groundwater pathways and an outstanding Florida spring, hence Wakulla Spring. I ran out of time for gas and oil research, so I'm having to stick with this. But this particular section of law, 373-802, relates to sewage treatment and disposal. I think that pollution by gas and oil would be way more damaging than sewage. When I spoke to you on this issue last month, my purpose was to remind you to ensure that unintended consequences are an important consideration. Tanks being offset makes no difference if they leak into our Floridan aquifer. There are supposed to be safeguards due to laws, regulations, and rules. One breach, one mistake, and the aquifer, our water supply, is tainted, poisoned, damaged, ultimately to our detriment and sometimes death. Florida's aquifer is underneath all of Florida. Whatever goes down into it, wherever it goes down, over a cave, 10 miles from the cave, it all goes into our aquifer. The drainage basins take water to our rivers that flow into our bays. It's not a spot here and a spot there. You all have the power and duty to protect our environment, our water supply, our flora and fauna, all of which together enables us to have a good, healthy life on Earth. If we don't take care of it, it cannot take care of us. If we keep destroying what God gave us to enable us to live here in the ecosystems He designed, we surely will bring our own deaths. The issue is saving our sensitive ecosystems, protecting our drinking water, without which we cannot live. If we have a priority focus area for sewage, then it sure ought to be a priority focus area for gas and oil spillage. Thank you. Now, my memory, I'm going to use my rest of my time. Memories are mostly what I have left. I'm 78. Oh, crap.
Can you bring it a quick landing?
Yeah. The Wild Cave in Jackson County, where 10 inches from my face, I saw the former ocean that used to cover Florida. The old Crawfordville Highway power line, there's a wild cave or sink where my boyfriend used to take me not to make out. just for the fun. And Mariana Caverns, all these caves give us memories, and the springs give us activities, and we need you to protect that. And please think of this when you're making these decisions.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, that ends our citizens to be heard. Discussion items from commissioners. Chuck, you want to start it off?
Ooh, I had lots for tonight, but I'm worn out already.
Sir?
Mm-hmm.
I will pass. Mike?
I want to say I appreciate the board voting 5-0. Ralph, I know there was a lot of stuff that's being done behind the scenes that we're trying to protect. I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. I was hoping everybody would stay and listen to, because I had a lot to say, which I'm not going to say everything. But, I made a post about respecting that we can agree to disagree on things, but we don't have to be disrespect to each other. I spent 28 years in law enforcement, investigating crimes, looking at case law, reading law. I can promise you that, we do our research. I know that I do. And the lady said earlier that the law is interpreted. Well, it is, but there's also case law. So I do, again, appreciate everybody's passion. I can tell you right now, there's not a commissioner up here. Most of us, or Quincy been here, God knows how long, but all of us have been born and raised here. And however, there's nothing that we would want to do to hurt the environment. And when people say that we don't care about clean water, that's the most bogus thing I ever heard. Who doesn't want clean water? So I appreciate everybody so much tonight for being respectful, showing up, and I'm glad we made a decision to table this to another night and give everybody the opportunity to speak. So thank y'all very much. Thank you.
Maybe you meant to say that.
I'm actually ordering this.
Yeah, so we're not going to go on that. Anyway. Exactly.
I respect, that's right.
I still have something to after Fred.
Okay.
I want to thank staff for all your hard work out there. I know it was hot. You did a good job of trying to do what you could with what you had. I want to thank all the citizens for coming, and I want to encourage everybody watching right now on YouTube or Facebook, wherever they're at, reach out to your state representatives. Reach out to your state representatives. Thank you.
Summer, I got a call this week from a builder who builds builder, and his complaint was that they're not following the rules. They're clearing land for view purposes, and the comp plan doesn't allow that. They only clear for the site only. And so my question is, are you inspecting these things for, when the inspector goes, are you looking for whether, breaking the rules, whether they're not doing what's appropriate? Because that's part of protecting Wakulla River is protecting the floodplain forests beside it.
The building inspectors are going to be inspecting the docks that are under that permit, not necessarily any tree clearing, but there isn't any specific rules or ordinances that say that they can't clear their residential property. There are some preservation policies that are in our comp plan, but it's not a specific ordinance violation.
I know, it's in our comp plan that they're not supposed to do it. And now my question is, do we need to pass an ordinance to make sure that
That would be up for the board to decide.
I think, protecting that floodplain forest is fine, and, is really important. And while I'm not opposed to people building a dock, everybody wants to have their dock, but doing clearing for site, view shed, shall we say, isn't really appropriate along the river corridor.
Some of our inspectors inspect that, don't they?
They inspect the structure itself.
But I mean, if they go there, I guess my question is, if they go there and all the trees are cut down,
It's
so they can...
technically not a violation of the county's code.
And that's what we need to change.
Is there some state law that really, because...
There are preemptions.
Yeah, preemptions where you can't not do that?
Most of those are going to be residentially zoned parcels. I can't off the top of my head think of any that are commercially zoned, that our landscape and tree ordinance would fall under those. Again, I think most of those are going to be residential zoning, so you do have to be careful as that are indicated with the state preemptions.
But I agree with you about clear cutting, because they clear cut every tree behind us in that subdivision.
Along the flood, I thought the floodplain of the river was state land.
I agree.
And so they shouldn't be cutting in there, and if the building inspector sees it, they need to be taking actions to prevent that.
Didn't we report some of those?
We have reported some of those to DEP over the years when we've received complaints, but we have to be very careful with the building inspectors going outside the scope of their building permits as well. So that is a very fine line because they are funded through an enterprise system, and that's specific to building permits. So we have to be very careful about what we have our building
And we
inspector.
reported some of those to DEP, and some of the people skirt by, they're not technically filling a wetland or disturbing a wetland, they're just cutting the tree down, and that's skirting around the rule.
Skirting around the rule,
Right. But that's how they do it, so.
And some people have gotten fined, but the permit to do it is $3,500. The fine's $5,000.
That's probably put an excavator in there. Yeah.
So they just go ahead and do it, and then they pay the fine and move on. So either we need to pull it out, and maybe have to pull it out and start all over again, or do something to stop people from doing that. Because this guy was ticked off because he's following the rules, okay, and his bid's always too high. Because following the rules means you can't do it.
Yeah, so, all right. Anything further?
We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Stand adjourned. Thank you. Osmo's here, so we can go home now.